So you can see there's two separate colonies here. One of the things I like about having a little super, an independent super on this, I can check this nucleus colony without interfering, without disturbing this nucleus colony. Also, when I used to winter in single boxes, if I want to check a nucleus colony, I have to pull combs. If I want to check them for how much feed they have, I have to pull all 4 combs out, estimating how much feed they have, so I can give them what I think is the right amount. But by having this super on top, I can just remove that super. I can lift it. I can look at it from underneath and look for brood. I don't have to disturb this one. I don't have to pull combs. A lot of your bee work can be done from underneath the combs, not from on top. You don't always have to pull combs out of every box to look at what's going on in a hive. You can see what's going on from underneath. I put a piece of tape on there, so if I want to put this box on top of this cover, the queen won't run down through that hole and be lost. And that happens. Or this queen run up in there and be lost. I can tell a lot what's going on in this colony just by looking from underneath here. I can see right away that the bottom box is full of bees and the top box is full of bees. I can look down in there with a little bit of smoke and I can see worker brood. I can see worker brood on that frame. Blow on them, I can see worker brood on that frame. See, there it is on that one. There it is on that one. There it is on, well, there's drone in this one, but I see worker down in there. So there's at least 3 frames with brood. So they're not short on brood for sure. I can look up into this one and I can see the same thing. Now you need to move these bees out of the way. You can move them out with your finger. You know, bees don't mind being touched. How many times a day does a bee get touched? You couldn't count it. So they don't mind being touched. You can smoke them. I don't really like to use smoke if I don't have to. You can blow on them. They'll move out of your way. So if you look at this colony, starting on the outside, I can stick my hive tool in here like this, and I can see that comes up dry. So there's no nectar on that one. How about on the inside? Very little. I can see some brood on this one, but look, this one has got drone and worker. There's worker brood right there. There's worker brood right there. So this colony has got at least 6 frames with brood before the end of the fall flow. So whatever is coming in now is probably being placed, as this brood emerges, they're filling it in with nectar. So one thing I'd like to know, so there's certainly they have enough bees. Certainly they have enough brood. 6 frames of brood, and she's still laying. She's not going to be done laying for, they shut down later than a production hive. So most production hives here shut down beginning of October. These things shut down sometime in October. So they're going to continue raising bees for the winter. It just makes really nice colonies. So maybe we should look and see if there's any chalk brood in this. You know, look at the bees in this thing. Just tons of bees. Not a beard, they're not bearding. They're not like that one over there that's got so many bees in it they can't even fit in the hive. And this is a cool day. It's what, it must be in the 60s today? Yeah. So this isn't even a hot day and they're still bearding. So that colony is very packed with bees. I think this is more a perfect one. I'd like to see maybe a little more feed, but I can correct feed. I can correct the amount of feed that a colony has by feeding it sugar syrup. But you can see that this colony is packing nectar into its outside combs. You see this, see the brood pattern here? See this brood pattern? That was full of brood not long ago. But you see what happens as it emerges? See, they fill it with nectar. So this is most likely goldenrod. It's not dark. It's a nice light honey here. So then what I'd like to do is maybe see if we can find some brood that's uncapped. See this pinhole here in this in the brood, and this one? That's usually an indication of a disease, of brood that may have died. It may be just a bee hatching out. So you just open it up and you see an adult bee that's in the process of emerging. See, she's still alive. She just hasn't come out yet. See, she wasn't quite old enough to come out, to emerge. And I assume that this pinhole on this one is similar. An adult bee that hasn't emerged yet. See, she's just getting eye color and body color. So she's not old enough. But if we go into the sealed brood looking for a chalk brood dies in the pupa stage. And so if you find something that's uncapped and it's an adult, it doesn't have chalk brood. Ah, there she is. Red dot queen, or orange dot queen right in the middle. Look at the color of her. See, that's the color I prefer in a queen. You see how dark she is? With a tannish or a brownish side. I really like that dark color. And look at the size of her thorax. She's got a real big thorax. And look at the hair on her body. She's just a prime queen right now. She's in the prime of her life. And next year, she was raised this year. Next year, she should be her best year should be the year after she was mated. So I'm looking for chalk brood in her pattern. I don't see any yet. I don't have a full frame of brood yet. I do have older brood on this frame. And I would expect to see any chalk brood in that brood. But you see the open cells in that brood. That could indicate that there was chalk brood and the bees cleaned it out. So let me see if I can find a frame of brood that is a better frame, a more complete frame of brood, and maybe we'll find some. If I don't find any on this comb, and it's a good brood comb, then I'm pretty happy. And I think the requeening did a good job. But let's see, what have we got here? Here's one that's got an open, and you see this bee died in the pupa stage. And this may be still has a little chalk brood in it. I would say they're cleaning it up pretty well, because I don't see any mummies. I see some brood that's dying. They're removing it before it's becoming contagious. Now this could be better. It could be better at being hygienic, but this one isn't bad. They've gone pretty far towards cleaning up the mess. I wouldn't have requeened it if it wasn't a mess. If it didn't really have more than a few cells of chalk brood. The population in this thing is enormous. Yeah. What a beautiful nuke. And this thing, well, once they get their final population, they'll winter with that population. There's not going to be a pile of dead bees out on the ground.
Now, you'll feed them in the winter?
No, I'll feed them. If they need anything this fall to bring them up to weight, I'll feed them this fall. I won't feed them in the winter. I believe that the feed belongs in the comb where the bees are. The only thing you can do for them in the winter is give them candy or fondant, whatever you call it. And that's really not appropriate. They have to break their cluster in order to get that food. Much better to put it where the bees put it. The bees put it in the comb. They don't put it in a block over their heads for winter. And so they're right on the comb. They're clustering on the feed. So if you feed your bees early in the season so that they can store it in the comb and ripen it the same way they would honey, and cap it the same way they would honey, that's where it should be. Then using a candy board or fondant is an emergency if your bees are going to run out, which you start to look in. I start to look in March. You might, in Virginia, might start looking in February or even January. And if they appear that they're going to be light and they need some help, then maybe you put a slab of sugar on them until you can feed them, until they fly regularly. Once they fly regularly, then you can start feeding them sugar syrup.